Well, everybody's getting on board. I just wanted to make sure that we have everything we need. So we're doing hips today. I hope that you have some floor space, right? And we'll be mostly on the floor. So I hope everybody has and is able to get down on the floor. I'll make it as safe as I can, but of course, use your own judgment and be really sort of slow in your transitions, okay? So you'll need a tennis ball, or if you have yoga tune-up therapy balls, that would be amazing. Hi, Sue. So we'll need a blanket, and I like using like a quilt type of blanket, so it's not too kind of squishy, right? So it has some thickness, but not too sort of puffy. Okay, and then if you have a yoga block, right, or one thick book or like a stack of medium-sized books would work well. There you go. So we'll start on our back, and I want your blanket underneath your sacrum. So sacrum is the flat, kind of like rounded part of your, underneath your lower back, below your lower back right here. So fold your blanket so it's sort of in this shape. And we'll settle onto our back with the blanket underneath our sacrum. So go onto your side first, and then press into your feet and put the blanket underneath your sacrum. And this is a great shape to sort of induce a relaxation response and to allow the body to settle down and focus on your breathing for a little bit before we start, okay? You can allow your knees to come together so your lower belly can relax and your arms can be resting by your sides. Take a few gentle, calm breaths through the nose. And sort of scan your body from the back of your neck. Maybe gently move your head side to side. See how the space between your shoulder blades feel. Your middle back, your lower back. Feel the blanket underneath your sacrum. And then the floor underneath the soles of your feet. As you inhale, notice how your ribcage is expanding side to side, back to front, and top to bottom. Notice how your belly expands on the inhale and softens, folds back in on the exhale. Notice if your inhalations are as long as your exhalations. And maybe you can invite your exhalations to be a tiny bit longer. Soften your eyes, your jaw, your neck, your chest. Beautiful. So open your eyes if they were closed. So press into your feet, and maybe if you can, fold your blanket one more time so it's a little bit higher now. And then settle your sacrum back down onto the blanket and move the blanket a bit closer to your heels so it feels like your pelvis is kind of tipping back, almost like falling off your blanket. Yeah, so your lower back should feel slightly rounded here. And now if you can, bring your right knee into your chest, hold onto your shin, and then see if you can extend your left leg. Flex both feet and hover your left heel off the floor 2 inches. Pretend you're trying to stand on the wall opposite to you. So like you're standing on your left foot, pressing through the heel. And gently hugging that right thigh in towards the chest. Find some gentle stretching through the front of the left hip. Slow, nice, gentle breaths in and out. And then we'll switch. So bend both knees, put both feet down. Now left thigh reaches in towards the chest. Again, your lower back feels like it's slightly rounded. Pelvis is almost falling off your blanket. And then you extend the right leg. Flex your foot. So flexing is pulling the ankle in towards the shin. Hugging the left shin in towards the chest and reaching through the right heel as though you're trying to stand on the floor. Keep pulling the right toes in, flexing the right ankle. Few more breaths here. Find that gentle stretch to the front of your right hip. Covering your right heel 2 inches off the floor so it's not passively on the floor. We're reaching through that heel. Lovely. And then bend both knees, feet on the ground. Take your blanket from underneath your hips and move it under your head. And make sure your neck is comfortable. So if your chin is tipping up, it means that you probably need a bit more height underneath your head. So take your time and adjust your blanket so your neck feels long. Beautiful. Okay, so let's tip the pelvis back and forth a few times. See if we can find some movement between the roots of your legs and your pelvis. Your feet on the floor, your knees are bent, back and forth. Now see if we can connect your movement to your breath. Can you take an inhale and tip your pelvis forward? And then on the exhale, can you tip your pelvis back? And then again, a whole inhale to slowly tip your pelvis forward. A whole exhale to tip your pelvis back. Beautiful. So now find neutral. And by neutral, I mean there's a tiny bit of space underneath your lower back, like you can stick your palm underneath your lower back. A little bit of daylight. And your hip bones in the front here, and your pubic bone, they're on the same plane. So if your pubic bone feels like it's lower than your hip bones, it means there's probably too much arch through the lower back. Or the other way, so if you feel your lower back is pressing to the floor, it means that your pelvis is tipping back. So try to find that. Explore back and forth, find that neutral. Beautiful. So notice how your sacrum is now heavy on the floor. So make sure it stays heavy and lift your right thigh up towards your chest. So find 90 degrees here. And now press your right hand into the right thigh and create some resistance there. And notice if you're sort of, remember that kinder egg, if your lid wants to pop open, or maybe your lower back wants to arch a bit more. So creating resistance here. Let's try straightening the right knee and then bending. And then straightening. And you keep applying pressure through your right hand into your right thigh, while the thigh resists back into your hand, right? Keep breathing here. Nice and slow through the nose. Keep bending and extending your knee. Make sure your sacrum feels heavy on the ground the whole time. Beautiful. So the next time the knee is straight or close to straight, see if you can rotate the entire leg in and out. So as though there's a cross on your thigh that's pointing towards your nose, but you're looking right at the cross, and then you're moving that cross out to the side and then in towards the other leg. So we're rotating from the root of the leg in and out. We keep applying pressure through the hand into the thigh into the hand, and we're finding that deep internal and external rotation at the hip, while straightening the knee. The pelvis stays heavy and the sides of your waistline stay the same length. So we're not hiking the hip up as we rotate it. Beautiful. And then bend the knee. Maybe tip your pelvis back and forth a few times again. And we'll do the other side. So we're going to bring the left thigh up. Flex the left foot. Find 90 degrees so your thigh is vertical in relation to the floor. Left palm is pressing to the left thigh and the thigh resists back. Check in with your pelvis and with your lower back. Maybe you're arching a little bit too much. Maybe your ribs want to flare up. So settle all down. Pelvis feels heavy on the floor. And we extend the knee and we bend while applying pressure through the hand and resisting the thigh back into the hand. Breathing through the nose. Notice how this side feels. Does it feel more challenging or does it feel easier on this side? Keep flexing the left foot so you're engaging as many muscles in your leg as possible. By flexing the foot, I mean you sort of pulling the top of the foot towards the shin the whole time. Your leg and your foot are active. One more time. Beautiful. Now the next time, your knees sort of close to straight. Make sure you're flexing that foot and start rotating in and out. Again, notice how the back line of this leg feels. Is it more challenging or than the first side or less so? Keep applying pressure through your palm. So the leg stays vertical, the rotation happens on its axis. And we're keeping the waistline on both sides the same length. We're not hiking up that left hip. Flexing the foot. Last time. Beautiful. And bend the knee. Feet on the ground. Let's widen our feet so they're roughly, so if you're on the yoga mat, that they're on the edges of your mat. So the feet will be wider than your knees. Take your arms into a T. And then gently move your knees over to one side. Look towards the opposite shoulder. 2 inhales here. And move back to center and over to the other side. Look towards the opposite shoulder. Can you keep your lower back relatively low? See if the lower back wants to really hike up. So keep it soft and heavy. And bring your knees back up. Beautiful. So now let's roll over onto the left side. And find your tennis ball or your yoga tune-up ball, your yoga block, or your books. So move your books closer to you so they're sort of in line with your thighs. So when you bend your top leg, we're going to place the ball underneath the inner side of our knee, like the thigh above the knee, like this. Okay, and then I'm going to place that leg on top of your books or your yoga block. Okay. Make sure your shoulders are comfortable. Maybe you want a bit more height underneath your head. So just gently move your thigh up and down. So you're massaging the inside of that, just above the knee on the inner thigh. And that might feel quite tender. Mm-hmm. So the weight of your leg is resting right on top of that ball and you're straightening the knee and then you're bending. And then straighten and bend. And straighten and bend. And then go up and down a few more times. Ooh, that feels good. Now take the ball out and put the knee down onto the block. So decide if the height is okay for you. If you feel like your the knee is falling too close to the floor, you can maybe add 2 books or move your block so it's on a medium height. And then find 90 degrees on the inner leg. So we're not bringing the heel in. We have 90 degrees between your calf muscle and the back of your thigh. And we're gonna lift the heel up, pressing the inner knee into your block, and then bring it down. And then bring it up. Try not to hike up the hip. And notice how this is internal rotation that happens deep inside the hip here, up and down. Up and down. So one more time. Beautiful. Okay, now we're going to move the block or your books off to the side. Take your ball again, and we'll squeeze it inside that top knee. And then look down towards your knees. Make sure you're not in a baby shape here. So we're going to move the thighs back so our shoulders, our hips, and our knees are roughly on the same line. And you're squeezing that ball inside your right knee. Let's bring the thigh in towards our chest. Then the knee will go up as the heel goes down. And then the heel will move up as the knee draws a circle. And you extend the thigh back. Try to keep your ribs in. And then you pull the thigh through, completing the circle. And then knee up, heel down. Then the knee is like a crayon that's drawing a big circle on a piece of paper in front of you. Beautiful. Let's do 2 more circles. Pretend there's something fragile right behind your sacrum there and you don't want to knock it over. So the pelvis stays on its side the whole time. You can actually interlock your fingers in the front here, and that will anchor your upper body a little bit more. Or you can press your top hand into the floor, and that will have the same effect. Beautiful. Let's do 1 more. Lovely. Okay. So take the ball out. Tap the hip. Nice. So let's come up and we'll switch sides. So bend your knees. So let's move the bottom leg back a little bit as you bend the top leg. Bring your block, and then the ball goes on top of the block so that the ball ends up on just above the knee on the inner thigh. And then start moving, massaging that part of your thigh gently. See how this part feels, how this side feels. And then settle over a spot that feels tender or slightly different from everything else there. And then see if you can straighten and bend. And straighten. And then if you straighten and you feel, oh, that feels even better here, you can massage it here as well. So just flossing it out. And bend. And 1 more time. Beautiful. Okay. So now take the ball out. The knee goes back onto your books or your block. And now we're going to bring the heel up. Try to keep the left waistline the same length as you rotate at the hip. So heel up, down. So and see how this is the rotation that goes in, internal rotation of the hip. And it feels quite strange probably because we don't take our hip into internal rotation very often, but it desperately needs it. Explore the end range. So when you lift it as high as you can, maybe count to 3 and keep lifting the heel up. 1, 2, 3, and then down. 1 more time. Can you spread your toes? Nice. Beautiful. So put the block off to the side. Take the ball, squeeze it inside the top knee. Look down, make sure the knees are roughly on the same line as the hips and the shoulders. So you can either anchor yourself through the fingertips in the front or interlock your fingers. Sort of solidify through the upper body. Make sure you're right on your side. We'll pull the thigh in, knee up, heel down. Now the knee is drawing the circle, right? So pretend you're drawing a circle. Heel up, knee down. Move the knee closer to the floor and then into the chest. Try not to shrink through the front here. Knee up, heel down. Beautiful. Really resist your pelvis forward like you're, mixing eggs and milk to make scrambled eggs, right? You really want to hold that bowl in place in order to do a good job mixing it up. So we're holding the pelvis still while rotating at the hip, gently carving out that joint space. Beautiful, one more. Nice, okay. Take that ball, tap the hip. Beautiful, okay. So let's find your belt, hopefully it's within reach there. Maybe unfold your blanket once, so we're going into our back, so you don't need the blanket to be quite that high. So your kitchen towel or your belt, move your pelvis back and forth. See how your lower back is doing now that we've moved the hips. We activated the hips. Nice. So now we're gonna loop our belt over your left leg. You can keep your right leg bent, or if you want, you can straighten it out. But we really want to make sure that the spine remains in neutral. So notice if you straighten your leg, if your lower back is now flat on the ground. If that happened, bend that knee and make sure that there is a tiny bit of space underneath your lower back. So pull on your strap and let's flex and point the foot a few times. Keep applying some pressure there. So you're pulling on the strap and you're resisting the foot into the strap, especially on the way back. So don't let the ankle to just flow back into flexion. So resist on the way back. Next time you're flexing your ankle, pretend you're balancing a bowl of soup on the sole of your foot. And now see if you can pour that soup gently through down the inner thigh and then down the outer thigh. We're trying to tip the ankle sideways, so find that tilt side to side. So our hips are only as strong as the foot that's driving them, and the foot receives all the signals from the ground and sends those signals into the ankle, and the ankle sends the signals into the knee and to the hip. So super important to have that awareness of the ankle and of the foot here, side to side. So now take both straps into your right hand. Make sure your left bum cheek stays on the floor. And let's take the right leg across midline. Just a touch. Make sure the left bum cheek stays on the floor. Keep flexing that ankle. Beautiful. Breathing here. Take it back to center. Switch hands. I'm going to straighten my right leg. Now we're going to take the leg out to the side, making sure the right bum cheek stays on the floor. And I'm using my leg muscles to control this movement. I'm not relying on the strap. I make sure that when I bring it back, I'm not using my arm, I'm using my hip muscles. So take it out to the side one more time. And with your leg muscles, you bring it back. Beautiful. Bend the leg. Let's switch sides. So loop it over the opposite leg. So this is, such an easy, effective stretch You can do this at the end of your day before going to bed. So pulling on your strap and flexing and pointing your foot, flexing at the ankle. See how the back line of the leg feels? Make sure there is some daylight underneath your lower back. And you're resisting on the way back. So you're pulling through the strap, but the ankle sort of reluctantly gives in. It keeps resisting into the belt. Beautiful. Okay, the next time you're pulling the top of the foot towards your shin, let's try to find that sideways tilt. So we're balancing a bowl of soup on the sole of the foot, and we're gently pouring the soup, so it's a trickle. It's not a, like, we're not pouring down, we're trickling down the inner thigh, and then down the outer thigh. Nice and slow. So we're not just wiggling it around, we're slowly tilting. We'll hold the belt in our left hand. Make sure the right bum cheek stays on the floor. Maybe you can slide your right hand underneath your bum, the right side, and just make sure that you feel the right bum on the hand. And then take your leg across midline. Keep flexing the foot. Breathing here. Maybe you want to move your head side to side gently here. Switch hands and take it out to the other side. Now the left bum cheek stays on the floor the whole time. And you're in control of that leg, so you're not relying on your arm to hold it up. Only go as far as you can still have control over that leg. Bring it back. And we'll go out one more time. And bring it back. Beautiful. And bend your knees. Let's widen our feet. Take your arms into a T, and we'll do that windshield wipe move again. So knees to one side, look over the opposite shoulder. This time, let's pause here. See if you can engage your left side, like almost like you're trying to reach the wall in front of you with your left knee. You're squeezing the left bum cheek, and you notice that stretch to the front of the left thigh, and you keep your pelvis as low to the ground as possible. And you slowly come back to center and over to the other side. Look towards the opposite shoulder. Start reaching the knee, your right knee towards the wall in front of you. Keep your lower back close to the floor. Squeeze to the right side. And then bring your knees back up. Roll onto your side. And let's find our way into hands and knees. And we'll take a few moments to move here. So in whichever way the body is asking you to move right now, go ahead and do that. Maybe you want to go in a circle over your hips. Maybe you want to round and arch a few times. See if you can connect your movement with your breath. Extending on the inhale and flexing on the exhale. Beautiful. So now take one of your books and place it on your lower back. And we'll widen our knees a little bit and bring our toes closer together so the knees are wider than our feet. Okay? So the point of this exercise is to balance the object on our lower back. And right away you'll notice that in order to balance and move over our hips, we really have to bring more movement into the hips rather than into our lower back. Because if we start moving at the lower back rather than at the hips, the object will fall off our lower back. So go in one direction in a circle, and then switch the direction, go the opposite way. If your wrists are very tender, you can do this on your forearms, but maybe add a blanket here so you don't have to go too low. So you can add a blanket and go down onto the forearms like this. Keep going in a circle in one direction and the other direction. And then come back to center and let's move the left knee slightly ahead of the right. Okay. And we'll go in a circle in this asymmetrical fashion. Again, balancing that object. Notice if your book is sort of wobbly on your lower back and try to eliminate that wobble. And to do that, you'll have to really go deep into the hips. Lovely. Now we're gonna switch. So right knee ahead of the left and go for a circle again. Beautiful. Come back to center, pull that knee in, take your object off your back and make your way to seated. So find your blanket. So fold it high enough so that when you sit, you can feel your sit bones. And we'll need our books here. So we'll place the books behind us, like so we can press into them with our hands. Not everybody will need that sort of height there, but we can start like this, pressing our hands into the books. Find your sit bones, and once you find the sit bones, you'll notice how your lower back is in neutral. So if you're off your sit bones, you're on your tail, your lower back is rounded here. So the books are needed here in order to press into them, so you can really find those sit bones right underneath you. Okay? If you can find your neutral back without the books, you can do that as well. Okay? So feet are wide, knees are wide. So I'm trying to see what would be the best angle. Okay, maybe like this, so you can see me. Pull your toes up. Make sure you're pressing yourself up through your hands. If your wrists are tender, you can do this on your fists like this. So the right knee stays up. See if you can take your left thigh in. And then bring it up. Keep your right thigh pointing up and take your left thigh out. Okay, so right thigh in. Left and then out. The opposite leg stays still. Explore the end range here and really find some resistance, right? Keep breathing in and out. Again, the internal rotation will probably feel very strange just because we don't spend enough time there. So now the left thigh will stay still. The right thigh will go in. In and out. Both sit bones stay heavy on the blanket. Notice when you take the thigh in, does your sit bone wants to lift off. So keep it down, maybe don't go quite as low, but keep that sit bone anchored into your blanket. In and out. Beautiful. And we'll move both legs over to the left. Now we're going to keep your left thigh as close to the floor as possible while opening through the right side and go as far as you can before you allow your left hip to follow your right. Beautiful. So here, we're going to reverse this. So you're going to keep your right thigh as close to the floor as possible. And you're opening your left side. Pull it open, open, open. When it doesn't go any further, that's when you allow your right hip to follow. but keep creating resistance through the inner thighs and slowly roll over onto the left. So flex your feet, make sure you're pulling the top of your feet towards your shins to engage the entire leg. Keep pressing yourself up so you stay up on top of your sit bones. Let's do it one more time. So left thigh stays as close to the floor as possible, and you're opening your right side. When it doesn't go any further out, that's when you allow your left side to follow. But you keep resisting, nice and slow. One more time. Right side stays close to the floor. Make sure you have roughly 90 degrees here in between your legs. 90 degrees through the back and through the front. Okay, so right thigh stays heavy, close to the floor, open. The left side, keep opening, and then allow the right side to follow. Beautiful. Okay, so now we're gonna finish our session by going down onto our belly. Let's take a moment to breathe here. Maybe sway your hips side to side gently. Take a few inhales into the belly. Exhales through the nose, nice and long. Inhale. Exhale. Now see if you can pull your left knee up along the floor. Keep your knee bent. And take a moment here. Make sure your pelvis stays leveled. If you notice that the hip has hiked up, can you allow it to release down towards the floor? Think of your left sit bone pulling back and down towards your right heel. Few breaths here. You can also try straightening that left leg, but make sure that your left hip stays as low to the floor as possible. 2 more breaths. And then take the leg back. And we'll go to the other side. So inhale into the belly. And slide your right knee along the floor so your knee is in line with your waistline roughly. Take an inhale here. Make sure the right hip stays close to the ground. If it's hiked up, allow it to soften down towards the floor. Think of sending that sit bone down towards the floor and away. So towards your left heel. And then if you can extend the right knee. Keep your feet flexed. Keep your pelvis leveled in relation to the floor. You can even try pointing your right toes up towards the sky, adding some external rotation to that line. Breathing into your belly. Observing the breath gently coming in, expanding in all 3 dimensions. And gently falling in, exhaling and softening. And then bring the leg back in and just take a few minutes on your belly, resting your forehead on your hands. Breathing, observing your breath, allowing your body to be heavy.